W5FC. This is N5BB.
Chairman, I need to make
Skynet will be starting here in about 1 minute.
Now, Skynet.
Does anyone need to use the repeater before I start the net? This is N5BB.
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
What good timing. This is N5BB. My name is Bill. I'll be your net control for this session of the Dallas Amateur Radio Club Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign break break and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic right now? This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from your net control in 5BB. And stations are reminded to identify at the end of each transmission so we can tell you're finished talking. This weekly net operates on 146.88 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9 hertz. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using a W5FC-R station ID or Echolink node 37247. I am monitoring Echolink, so I currently see a few stations already over there, and we will get to Echolink stations after the RF check-ins. Tonight's topics: astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-visual links are available online. Go to www.w5fc.org. That's whiskey5friedchicken.org. Right now for the complete list. Remember to tell others about this popular net. All amateur radio operators are welcome. You do not need to be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. The net is 90 minutes long and structured in several parts. General announcements, Texas Astronomical Society, National Space Society events, discussion topic of the evening selected by your net control station, space exploration and space history, what's up, topic constellation of the week, space launches for the week, recent astronomical discoveries, and visible satellite passages over the next couple of days. We follow up with astronomical Q&A if we have any time, and the 73 round. We usually run out of time. We try to finish right by 10:30 p.m. All amateurs licensed to transfer on this frequency are invited to check in. So, first, do we have any short time check-ins? If so, please come with your call sign and your name and where you're transmitting from this evening. This is N5BB with Skynet.
November 5, Whiskey Oscar India, William and Alan, short time.
Alpha Alpha 5, Alpha Hotel, Robert Richardson, short time.
Okay. I would like to recognize N5WOI William and AA5AH Robert. Do we have any other short-time check-ins? This is N5BBs with Skynet. Okay, do we have any RF check-ins? We'll do Echolink later. So right now, do we have any RF check-ins for Skynet? If so, please come down.
Kilo 5, Kilo, Tango X-Ray, Kelly, in Quinlan.
Golf 5, Papa, Mike, and Richardson.
November, Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas.
Front 5, Zulu, Bravo, Lima, Bill, Farmers Branch.
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brendan DeSoto.
Kilo Echo 5, Romeo Foxtrot Zulu, Darwin in Garland. No.
This is Whiskey 5 Golf, Uniform Sierra, Gus, far northeast Dallas. Far northeast Dallas.
Kilo 5, Juliet, Delta Whiskey, John in Coppell.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor Lima, James in Carrollton.
This is Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha, Chaz, Mesquite. Alpha Golf 5, Papa Mike, Rich in Rockwall.
Okay, let's pause there as I write down Rich. Okay, there were some doubles. So I'm going to go through these in the same order you checked in, but please listen for your call, because I know I missed one or two. I'd like to recognize K5KTX Kelly, KG5P Mike, NT5TM Tony, KF5ZBL Bill, WB5OZL Brenda, WA5RFG Rollin, W5GUS Gus, K5JDW John, KG5WVL James, KF5JHA Chaz, and AG5PM Rich. There were like two doubles in there. So if you didn't hear your call, or you want to check in and haven't tried yet, please come now. This is N5BB, Skynet. Okay, please pause. That station is extremely noisy. Please try again. If possible, increase power or adjust your location. I think it was a Kilo Fox 5 station. Please try again. Okay, Kilo 5 something hotel. Please, in Carrollton. Please try again. Nothing heard. Did anyone else get anything more? I got Kilo Golf 5 something hotel in Carrollton. Did anybody else get the information? Nothing heard. We can try again later. Do we have any other stations that would like to check into Skynet? If so, please come now.
Kilo Fox 5, November X-Ray Romeo, John, Caddo Mills.
Kilo Echo 5, Romeo Foxtrot Zulu, Darwin in Garland.
Kilo 5, Golf Lima Delta, Randy, Rowlett.
Kilo Echo 5, India, Charlie X-Ray, Tom, Louisville.
Kilo Golf 5, Uniform, Kilo Uniform, David, Mesquite.
Okay, please hold there. Let's see. I recognize KF5NXR, John. Please confirm, is it Kilo Echo 5, Romeo Fox Zulu, Darwin? Did I get your call correct?
Yes, sir, that is correct. Kilo Echo 5, Romeo Foxtrot Zulu, and name is Darwin.
Okay. Randy and Rowlett, call ending in Golf Lima Delta. I can't remember your prefix. Please try again.
Kilo 5, Golf Lima Delta, K5GLD.
Very good. K5GLD, I got you. And then I have KE5ICX. Good evening, Tom. And KG5UKU, David. Do we have any other stations that would like to check into Skynet? If so, please come now. This is N5BB.
Whiskey 5, Lima Oscar Bravo, mobile, going through Dallas into Kaufman.
Very good, Carl. We have W5LOB mobile. Do we have any other stations liking to check into Skynet? This is N5BB, net control. The station that tried earlier from Carrollton, KG5 something H, have you improved? Can you try again? Nothing heard. They may have had a low battery. We will have time to check in later during the net also. I would like to recognize well, number one, is anyone on Echolink, would you like to check in via voice? If you don't, I'll check you in manually. But if you'd like to check in voice, please come down.
Zero, Michael Charlie, Shane, and
Bethany.
in Blue Springs.
India 5, Bravo November Papa, Luis in Fort Worth.
W0MBC, Shane. And I forgot, what is your sidekick there? I'm sorry, it didn't come through very well. Can you try one more time?
That would be Bethany.
Very good, Bethany. I apologize. I just forgot. We have you, and welcome, Bethany. So, I have KI5BNP, Louise. I'd also like to recognize WT9V, Michael. I see you lurking. N5YEO, Stephen in San Antonio. N5IMS, JJ, who often joins us here from Carrollton. And KK6ZUB. KK6ZUB, can you enter either on text or on voice what your name and location is, please? I guess KK6ZUB isn't listening or can't get on the text. Okay, so let's move ahead. Do we have any other stations that would like to check in for Skynet via any mode? Please come now. This is N5BB, net control.
Kilo Golf 5, Alpha Papa Lima, Patrick in Dallas.
In Dallas.
That was nearly a perfect double. I think the first one was Patrick. Can you try again?
Yes, sir. Kilo Golf 5, Alpha Papa Lima, Patrick in Dallas.
I've got you, Patrick, KG5APL. And what was the other station?
This is Kilo Golf 5, Oscar Mike Romeo, Marcia in Dallas.
KG5OMR. I have you, Marcia. Thank you very much. Welcome to the net. Do we have any other stations? I see KG5BZW. Jay, I will check you in on Echo Link. And who else? I don't see any other new Echo Link stations. Do we have anybody else that would like to check into Skynet before we move ahead? This is N5BB. Okay, I cannot copy that station. Can you try one more time, please? Okay, Kilo Golf 5, something, Whiskey something hotel, I believe. Would you try one more time? Oh boy. Can anyone else copy that station?
I think you said Whiskey Golf 5, Kilo Golf Hotel, something like that. Whiskey Golf Hotel, K5GLD.
I think you're right. Whiskey Golf 5, Whiskey Golf Hotel. Is that correct? I'm going to assume it's correct. Welcome to the net. Your signal is just too weak. Need to get a better antenna, better location, increased power or something. Or try Skynet, or try Echolink. Echolink works pretty good. Okay. Oh, JJ. Yes, KG5WGH. JJ says he got him. So, thank you, JJ. I really appreciate it. Okay, we have a confirmation there because JJ can hear him on input, which means the station probably is in Carrollton. Okay. Now, let's move ahead to the next part of the net. We're going to move to general announcements. Does anybody have any general announcements? These can be amateur-related, astronomical, space, or general interest. If so, please come down with your call sign.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
Okay, Tony, go right ahead.
Thank you, Bill. I'd like to remind everyone that this is not the last net of the evening. We do have the afterglow movie discussion. We'll be discussing the independent film Cosmos with a K, available for free on YouTube, right here at about 10:35-ish, maybe 10-ish, 10:30-ish, about 5 minutes after this net finishes its business. We also do have nets coming up tomorrow. The meeting on the air at 7 and the Racy's training net at 8 p.m. The meeting on the air is open to any ham who'd like to share what's been going on in their ham world. The Racy's training net, well, only Racy's appointees can check into it, but everyone is welcome to listen to the training. Of course, that's not our only meeting on the air this week. This Tuesday, the Dallas Amateur Radio Club will be having its meeting over the air at 7 p.m. right here on this repeater. We'll be celebrating Old Timers Night. Tom, KE5ICX, will be our moderator for the program. And remember, the way Tom does this net, it's not just for old timers. He likes to get input from lots of hams and what got them into the hobby and what's kept them in the hobby over the years. So please join us this Tuesday at 7 p.m. on the repeater. You know, this repeater, the one you're listening to. Of course, we also have a board meeting this Tuesday. That will be handled over the internet. There are links to that at w5fc.org. We'll be sure to post some updated links in a very easy-to-find spot before the meeting. And of course, don't forget that this Monday is a first Monday. It's easy to forget because the month started on a Wednesday, but this is the very first Monday of the month, and so we're going to be talking about ham fixins. I know a lot of us have been staying home more than usual and cooking more than usual. Here I am making banana bread in late evening. So bring your recipes, cooking tips, and kitchen anecdotes to Ham Fixins this Monday at 7. This is the only net I ever give a safety warning for. Please eat before the net, or else you're going to get really hungry listening to all of us talk about delicious food. So afterglow movie discussion tonight, meeting on the air tomorrow, big real meeting on the air this Tuesday, and of course Ham Fixins this Monday, NT5TM.
Very good, Tony. Does anyone have any questions about Tony's announcements? If so, please come down. Okay, do we have any other announcements? If so, please come now with your call sign. Oh, Tony, no science announcements tonight?
I did all my science announcements during TechNet. I actually didn't save any for Skynet. NT5 to you.
Okay, just double checking. Okay, if we have no other announcements, then I'll move ahead to the next part of the net. The AMSAT, the amateur radio, the Radio Amateur Satellite Corporation has 2 nets available to Dallas residents. On Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Central Time, you can use Echolink, look under groups in AMSAT *, and you can also look at www.amsatnet.com. That net originates in Houston. Then locally, the Dallas AMSAT net for DFW is every Wednesday evening at 9 p.m. local time. On the Arlington repeater, 147.140. That's 147.140. Positive offset with a PL tone of 110.9. Wednesday at 9 p.m. AMSAT net. Everything about amateur satellites. Okay, so we have, as Tony mentioned, the first week, Monday of the month, we have Ham Fixings Net. The second Monday, we have MCOM, Emergency Communication 101. The third week, we have another Ham Fixings Net. The fourth week, we have GeekNet. And if there is a fifth net, we have Surprise Net, where anything goes. Saturdays, of course, we have TechNet at 7 to 8 p.m. roughly, and Skynet from 9 p.m. to 10:30. The National Traffic System Net is on this repeater every evening at 6:30 p.m. Usually ends around 7. And then at 10:30 p.m. Every night of the week, the National Traffic System meets on the Irving 146.72 repeater. You can also get into that on 220 megahertz or 222.4 or in 442.675 because Irving has 3 repeaters linked together. Okay, before we move ahead, do we have any questions about any of the announcements? This is N5BB and Skynet. Also looking for late check-ins.
Kilo India 5, Gulf Romeo Hotel. Melissa in Dallas.
Very good, Melissa. I have you. I saw you on Echolink and these other stations. Okay, I also have KI6 LZQ. Very good. I see you occasionally there. And good evening. Good to hear you on. KI6 LZQ on Echolink. Okay, let's move ahead then. It's time for the Afterglow Net information. Tom, would you like to do the honors? This is N5BB Net Control.
Oh, sure, Bill. Here we go. Tonight's Afterglow info is as follows. Philip Hoyt, human genetics expert, looked at his wife. It was the third day home. He noticed she hadn't vacuumed the floor again. Fortunately, he bought a Roomba, and it was slowly catching up. He looked in the kitchen and sighed. No one had made dinner for him. There was no Roomba to fix dinner. Seemed she'd slept in for the third day in a row. Philip looked at his watch and thought, well, I'd better get to work. I hope she wakes up soon. She needs to wash the car. Join us for the next Afterglow Movie Net. Cosmos with a K from 2016. or 17 or 15 or something like that. It was a web series, and they made it into a movie. Not too bad. Tonight at 10:30. Back to you, Bill. KE5ICX.
Thank you very much, Tom. Okay, next we have Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events. Where and when you can look through a telescope if social guidelines will allow you to get close to other people. Chaz, do you have any information, or if you don't, does anybody else have any information about TAS, including the monthly meetings? Go ahead.
This is KF5JHA. Thank you, Bill. Yes, the Texas Astronomical Society actually had a meeting in March. It was put together like the week of the meeting, and they had it on Zoom, and it worked really well. We had between 50 and 60 people that attended the meeting, and it was a great time had by all. In fact, there was a constellation of the month that was presented by myself and my friend Dennis, and we were the featured program during the meeting. Plus, we had some business stuff that was going on. So I assume that in April, on April 24th, that would be the fourth Friday of the month, the Texas Astronomical Society will have a meeting, probably via Zoom once again. If you're a member, you will get a constant contact email about the, I guess, the Zoom ID number, and there might be a password involved as well. I can't remember if there is or not. So hopefully you'll be able to join us. Also, the Texas Astronomical Society has suspended any observing sessions due to our, I don't like it, social distancing. It's physical distancing. We're actually being social right now on the air, so I would prefer the term physical distancing of about 6 feet. Okay, back to you, Bill. KF5JHA.
Thank you, Chaz. Does anyone have any questions about the Texas Astronomical Society? If so, please come down. You can find more about the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas at www.texasastro.org. That's TEXASASTRO.org. Let's see. Think that's everything about that. So, next, National Space Society events. Well, with the physical distancing, we have not had any events, and we're going to skip our April meeting, which is normally on the second Sunday of the month. But we're going to have a meeting on that's going to be on WebEx, and I'm going to be the host. So if anybody would like to listen in on the April meeting of the National Space Society, just send me an email. It's n5bb@arrl.net. It's November 5 Bravo Bravo at arrl.net. Tell me your name and express that you're interested in listening in to the National Space Society North Texas chapter meeting, which will be a week from tomorrow, Sunday the 12th of April on WebEx. There'll be a URL so you can see the presentation as well as the voice call-in number. Okay, now that that's over, do we have any check-ins? Late check-ins or comments? This is N5BB. Skynet, go ahead.
This is November 5, Yankee Echo Oscar. Stephen, San Antonio.
Very good, Stephen. Yes. I got you checked in earlier on Echolink. Do you have any comments?
Nothing comes to mind. Hope everybody's well and be safe.
Thank you very much, Stephen. I would like to repeat Stephen's perfect comments. Everybody be safe. Wash your hands. Don't touch your face. Don't cough at others. Stay at home. Okay, so now we have discussion topic of the evening. Unfortunately, I've been talking too much already, but I get to talk some more. So I'm going to talk about a paper. Once I can find my email here. Hold on. Found it. Okay, so I'm going to talk about a paper that was released in Science Magazine yesterday. Science Magazine is a journal published by the American Association for the Advancement of Science, AAAS. And the title of the article was a technical report. The title is, "An Artificial Impact on the Asteroid 162173, Ryugu," that is spelled R-Y-U-G-U, R-Y-U-G-U, Ryugu, I guess is how you pronounce it, formed a crater in the gravity-dominated regime. By the way, does anybody in the net know how you properly pronounce Ryugu? Am I saying it correctly? I'm going to assume I'm correct then. So again, an artificial impact on the asteroid Ryugu formed a crater in the gravity-dominated regime. So what's going on here? There's a spacecraft, Hayabusa 2, which was developed and built under the leadership of the Japanese Aerospace Exploration Agency, with contributions from the German Aerospace Center, the Centre National d'Etudes Spatiales in France, and in collaboration with NASA and other organizations in Japan. This spacecraft was launched in December 2014, and it arrived at the near-Earth asteroid Ryugu in June 2018. Okay? So this is nearly 2 years ago it arrived. It's been up there since then, and in November 2019, it departed the asteroid, is returning to Earth, as expected to return to Earth in late 2020. This is an amazing spacecraft. It was supposed to deploy up to 10 objects. So in addition to landing on this asteroid, it was supposed to be deploying up to 10 things. There was Minerva rovers. There were 2 Minerva rovers. There was then another rover called Mascot. I say rover. It was another object. There was a deployable camera. There was a small carry-on impactor. There were 5 target markers. So, not all of these were deployed, but some of them failed, but most of them got down. And there was a sample return, and it's coming back to Earth with samples from the asteroid. This is a pretty amazing thing. So what did they find? They found that this small asteroid's covered with boulders with sizes up to 160 meters in diameter. It's like 500 feet in diameter. This is huge for a small asteroid. The surface is covered with a regolith layer composed of boulders and granules under microgravity conditions. The gravitational acceleration is about 1 times 10 to the negative fourth meters per second per second. The acceleration on Earth is about 9.8 meters per second squared. And this means that the surface gravitation on Ryugu is about 1/100,000th that on the Earth. But it does have a gravity. It's a microgravity, but there is a gravity, and that was important for this mission. So, the main topic of this article was a subsurface sample collection. So they decided they wanted to get some samples from beneath the surface. So what they used was an impactor, and creating a crater, and the crater spit out material. Quite a bit later, the spacecraft landed and collected the material, some of the material that was ejected. We got some material from beneath the surface. There was a second collection of material on the surface. So what they deployed was a free-flying gun. So what happened was the spacecraft was near the asteroid. It deployed the gun, which moved slowly, very slowly. The spacecraft then moved further away for 40 minutes. And then the gun fired a 2.5 kilogram, this is about 5.5 pound, copper projectile. This gun was up above the asteroid. It fired the projectile down into the asteroid from the gun, and with an explosive propellant. And then this projectile caused a crater to be formed, and material to be released, shot out. The gravity is very low, so the material fell back very slowly. Also, before it did the projectile firing, the main spacecraft left a deployable camera, which observed the striking of the surface and the material shooting up. So they've got photographs of the material being shot off the surface, and this is really very amazing. I'm not sure if Tom is displaying it on the feed because I'm not looking at the feed, but there's pictures of this material being shot up. So, more details. Let's see. The gun that shot the copper projectile was about 500 meters altitude, and it used plastic explosives for its acceleration. The crater it created was roughly 10 meters in diameter, so about 30 feet in diameter. Anyway, then the spacecraft came back and released a reflective target marker to aid in navigation, and then the spacecraft landed, and then later it took a sample of the material that was shot up from the crater, and it put it in a sample return mission. The spacecraft collected and returned several samples in separate sealed containers inside the sample return capsule, which has thermal insulation, the sample return capsule is 40 centimeters in external diameter, 20 centimeters in height, a mass of about 16 kilograms. In November 2019, the end of the science phase, the spacecraft used its ion engines. This is also hot new technology. It used its ion engines for changing orbit and returning to Earth. When the spacecraft flies back past Earth in late 2020, it'll release the capsule spinning at 1 revolution every 3 seconds. The capsule will re-enter the Earth's atmosphere at 12 kilometers per second, which is pretty fast. It'll deploy a radar-reflective parachute at an altitude of about 10 kilometers and eject its heat shield while transmitting a position beacon signal. The sample capsule is planned to land at the Woomera test range in Australia. Once on Earth, any volatile substance will be collected before the sealed containers are opened. I have no idea what that means, but that's what it says. The samples will be curated and analyzed at JAXA's Extraterrestrial Sample Curation Center. How would you like to work there? Wouldn't that be a nice job title? I work at the JXAA Extraterrestrial Sample Curation Center. That's amazing. And international scientists will be able to request small portions of the samples. This 2-kilogram copper projectile impacted at 2 kilometers a second. So it was a pretty high velocity, reasonably high velocity bullet. The crater was supposed to be, from calculations, about 7 meters in diameter. And from the pictures, they believe that the crater that was created was about 7.3 meters in diameter within the error bars. The authors of the paper conclude that the crater they formed was on a cohesionless surface, and that the surface must be composed of sand-like cohesionless material. So it's not stuck together. So this is not like soil on the Earth that's kind of compacted. It's like loose particles. It's kind of like loose sand, loose boulders, loose material. And so when this thing hit, the material that was spit out was loose. And so it was only tied by gravity. That's the only thing controlling its movement was gravity. So these measurements support an estimate for the surface age of about 8.9 million years, plus or minus 2.5 million. This is shorter than other predictions, which would be for much, much longer. The crater retention age of the top 1 meter of the surface is probably about 100,000 years or younger. So what we're looking at on the surface of this asteroid is probably, stuff from that arrived within the last 100,000 years, or changes within the last 100,000 years. So that's all the specific information I have to talk about. The pictures, which I hope Tom deployed there, I emailed them to him, shows the images of the impact and what was kicked out, and they delayed the camera. They had pictures at different times. So there's some pictures from 5 seconds after impact, 36 seconds, 100 seconds, 192, 396 and 498 seconds. And things were still shooting out. So things were up for quite a bit of time because the gravity, the low gravity was the only thing that pulled the material back in. The impact turned out to be roughly semicircular, roughly half of a circle. That's all I have. Does anybody have any questions about that paper? This is N5BB and Skynet.
W5GUS.
W5GUS. I don't think I had you checked in. Oh, yes, I did. There you are, Gus. Go right ahead.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Well, very fascinating. Wow, what a great feat for those Japanese scientists. My question is there some way to, or have they kind of backtracked that asteroid, and any ideas where that what part of space that asteroid came from? W5GUS.
Oh boy, I do not know that. Does anyone else happen to know? It's a near-Earth object, a potentially hazardous asteroid of the Apollo group. They're a group of near-Earth asteroids named after 1862 Apollo, discovered by German astronomer Karl Reinmuth in the 1930s. They're Earth-crossing asteroids that have an orbital semi-major axis greater than that of Earth, but perihelion distances less than the Earth. So the orbit of this satellite crosses the Earth's orbit. Is that what you were asking?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. That's exactly it. Thank you. W5GUS.
Also, there is so listen to this, there's more. It's part of an asteroid family belonging either to Eulalia or Polona. These are in the asteroid belt. Eulalia is a minor planet orbiting the Sun, very near a 3-to-1 Jupiter orbital resonance. Polona is a very dark asteroid from the asteroid belt. So it appears that there may have been collisions with one of those two objects I just mentioned, and the parent body of Ryugu likely experienced dehydration due to internal heating. Anyway, so it was probably formed by a collision in the asteroid belt, which then happened to change orbits down so that it crossed the Earth. So it's a near-Earth asteroid, which is very interesting, which is one of the reasons they wanted to make measurements on it. If you will go and do a web search for Ryugu, RYUGU, and look at the Wikipedia page, you'll see a lot of interesting things about it. Okay, do we have any other comments or questions about Ryugu before we move ahead? This is N5BB and Skynet. Also, any other check-ins?
Kilo Charlie 5 Romeo Alpha India.
Very good, Charles, KC5REI. Do you have any comments, or just you want to check in?
Actually, I had a question, but maybe not directly related. it, but so if someone wanted to just write me the information or send it to me to my call sign or email, KC5REI, gmail@gmail.com. What I was wondering about is, with all this space stuff, I have like a little pair of binoculars, but, I was thinking I'd like to buy a telescope, but I'm not even sure what to look for. I mean, at one time I had a little, a mead that my parents bought for me, but that's long gone. Anyway, I would love to find out what others think, the pitfalls, or whatever to look for when buying a telescope. KC5RAI.
Okay, Charles, well, this isn't exactly the right time in the net, but let's spend just a little bit of time while you're here. Would anybody else like to quickly answer Charles, or would this be better done on email? Anybody have any comments?
KF5JHA.
Go ahead, Chaz.
Well, actually, it would take me probably 10, 15, maybe even 20 minutes to go over some of the things you need to do. But what you've got right now, pair of binoculars, is a very good start. Once the Texas Astronomical Society has observing stations available again on Saturday nights, I recommend people going there, taking a look through a bunch of different telescopes, asking questions. It's sort of like car shopping. You can actually test drive them, and they'll tell you all about them. That's a good place to go, but you need to find out what you want to do with the telescope. Are you going to transport it to other locations? You're going to have it permanently mounted? The list goes on. So there's a lot of questions, and again, this could take quite some time. So maybe we can devote part of a Skynet sometime in the future on how to purchase a telescope. KF5JHA, back to you, Bill.
Okay. Very good, Chaz. Very good comments. One comment I'd make really quick, Charles, is with binoculars, they're pretty good for looking at the moon, which is actually pretty interesting, and looking at planets, maybe also looking at Jupiter and Saturn, the bright planets that have satellites. So you can look at various planets, and you can look at other nebula and other kinds of things pretty easily with binoculars. So Charles, let's leave that for now because it would take up too much time. And maybe we'll talk about it on a future net. How does that sound, Charles? KC5RAI, this is N5BB.
KC5RAI, yeah, that's what I was thinking. Anyway, as I say, I just wanted to throw it out because that's something I've been thinking about. KC5RAI, back to the net.
Okay. By the way, Bethany had to go to bed, so she wanted to tell the net good night. So if you're still listening, Bethany, good evening. Various people said goodbye to her on Echolink, but I was talking, so I wasn't looking. Okay. Any other last-minute check-ins before we go on to space exploration and space history with Kelly? Any other late check-ins? This is N5BB. I heard a lot of noise. Please try again. I could not pull the call sign out. Was anyone else able to hear the station? Okay, I apologize. Station heard. In the future, you might try Echolink or try increasing your signal, but we just can't hear you this evening. So let's move ahead. Kelly, I believe you're doing space exploration and space history night. It's all yours, Kelly. K5KTX. This is N5BB.
Thank you, Bill. This is K5KTX, and before I do my little spiel here, I wanted to add a little bit to the telescope and binoculars thing. If you go to the texasastro.org website and scroll down a little bit in the middle, there are a couple of documents there. One is called Telescope Buying Guide, and that might get you some information to take a look at until we can start having star parties again. And speaking of staying at home, probably looking for things to do to fill up your time. So NASA at Home with podcasts, ebooks, do-it-yourself, and more. NASA has lots of fun, informative ways to help you explore the solar system and beyond. No launch vehicle required. NASA's new internet and social media special called NASA at Home will show and engage you in the agency's discoveries, research, and exploration from around the world and across the universe, all from the comfort of your own home. NASA at Home offers something for family. It brings together a repository of binge-worthy videos and podcasts, engaging ebooks on a variety of topics, do-it-yourself projects, and virtual and augmented reality tours, which include the agency's Hubble Space Telescope and International Space Station, as well as an app that puts you in the pilot seat of a NASA aircraft. This special also spotlights educational and entertaining resources and activities for families and students in kindergarten on up. Plus, it provides access to everything from formal lesson plans to amazing imagery and stories about how science and exploration help the world. If you want to practice safe science at home, we have opportunities for citizen scientists to contribute to ongoing research from our solar system's backyard to your own backyard. This includes searching for brown dwarfs and planets in our outer solar system and helping track changes in clouds, water, plants, and other life in support of climate research. NASA at Home will feature ongoing opportunities to interact and hear from agency experts. For example, record-breaking astronaut Christina Cook reads children's books weekdays at 3 p.m. Central Daylight Time on Instagram Live as a part of educational and STEM activity for students. NASA Television also is running NASA at Home themed programming from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Central Time weekdays, as well as broadcasting around the clock with recent mission events and news, conversations with astronauts on the International Space Station, educational looks at science, technology, and exploration topics, and historical programs from the agency's storied past. So check in regularly with NASA at Home for the latest and greatest the universe has to offer. And as I did last time, the launch window for the Mars 2020 rover, now known as Perseverance, opens around July 17th. So I thought I would take a few minutes to cover space news to briefly talk about the instruments on board this rover. Last time I talked about the Mastcam-Z. This week I'm going to tell you about a bit about the Mars Environmental Dynamics Analyzer, known as MEDA, M-E-D-A. MEDA will help prepare for human exploration by providing daily weather report and information on the radiation and wind patterns on Mars. Sensors are located on the rover's mast neck and on the deck, front, and interior of the rover's body. It includes sensors for air temperature, radiation and dust, relative humidity, thermal infrared, and 2 wind sensors. It has the ability to return approximately 11 megabytes of data. The principal investigator is Jose Rodriguez Manfredi of Centro de Astrobiología, Instituto Nacional de Técnica Aeroespacial, Madrid, Spain. And in space history this week, back on March the 30th in 1982, wow, that was right before I graduated from high school, the crew of STS-3, Jack Lousma and Gordon Fullerton, landed Space Shuttle Columbia on Northrop Strip at White Sands Space Harbor. This was the first and only shuttle mission to make a landing at the White Sands facility. Built on a bed of dry gypsum, the White Sands facility served as a backup landing site in the event of rain or other emergencies at the primary landing site, at the time, Edwards Air Force Base in California. In this case, the dry lake bed at Edwards was wet from recent rains. During the 8-day mission, Lausman and Fullerton performed an array of scientific experiments. Their main objective, however, was to verify the performance of the vehicle and test launch and return capability. While Columbia landed safely at White Sands, a subsequent dust storm caused extensive contamination of the orbiter, one of the reasons why White Sands was never used again. Following the landing, Columbia was returned to Kennedy Space Center atop a modified Boeing 747 shuttle carrier aircraft. April the 1st, back in 1960, the first experimental weather satellite was launched. The TEROS program, or Television Infrared Observation Satellite, was NASA's first experimental step to determine if satellites could be useful in the study of Earth. At that time, the effectiveness of satellite observations was still unproven. Since satellites were a new technology, the TEROS program also tested various design issues for spacecraft, instruments, data, and operational parameters. The goal was to improve satellite applications for Earth-bound decisions such as, should we evacuate the coast because of a hurricane? On April the 2nd, back in 1958, President Eisenhower proposed the creation of what is now NASA in an article of draft legislation sent to Congress. He originally proposed to establish a National Aeronautics and Space Agency built around the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics, or NACA. The word agency was changed to administration at the behest of Eileen Galloway, who worked for the Congressional Research Service. She believed that an administration with an administrator would have more power than a mere agency with a director. After hearings that spring, the legislation was passed, and Eisenhower signed the National Aeronautics and Space Act into law on July 29, 1958. NASA began formal operations October 1st, 1958. And also on April the 2nd, back in 1968, the film 2001, A Space Odyssey premiered. It was produced and directed by Stanley Kubrick, with a screenplay by Kubrick and Arthur C. Clarke. The film's premise of an extensive space infrastructure, including a large orbiting space station staffed by international crew members with regular trips to a lunar base, was visionary and highly optimistic at a time of great uncertainty. But some of the technological advances imagined have since come to pass. And finally, on April the 3rd, 1966, Luna 10 entered lunar orbit and became the first human-made object to orbit the moon or any celestial body beyond Earth. The Soviet probe launched on March 31st following the failure of a mission earlier that month, which had never left Earth orbit. During operation, over the course of 56 days, Luna 10 gathered data on the moon's magnetic field, its radiation belts, cosmic radiation, and micrometeoroid density. Tracking data showed that the spacecraft's orbit was being distorted by irregularities in the moon's gravitational field, provided that first evidence that the moon's internal composition wasn't uniform. Last contact was made on May 30th, 1966. And that's all I've got this evening. This is K5 KTX.
Thank you, Kelly. Does anyone have any questions for Kelly? Or any other questions or comments? This is N5BB, Skynet. Next, it's time for Chaz with What's Up? KF5JHA. This is N5BB. Go right ahead.
Thank you, Bill. Good evening, everyone. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. My degree is in astrophysics, and I work at Brookhaven Community College. Well, not on the campus right now, but online. And we call this segment of Skynet What's Up. Remember that Skynet's not only available on the Dallas repeater, 146.88 megahertz, with a private line tone of 110.9, but also available to hams across the world via Echolink. We've mentioned that several times, Echolink, that is. And most weeks, Skynet is also as a video component. I'm watching the video component right now. I'm watching the YouTube version of it. You can find those links on w5fc.org website. So with radio, Echolink, and video, I say that Skynet's in 3D. Now our friend Tony, he signed in earlier in T5TM. He says we're in 4D because we use the dimension of time. By the way, what's going on in the chat window of Echolink, talking about custard, and what's being done on video. Oh, that's a slide I gave to Tom. May not have anything to do with what's being talked about on the air. To get the full 3D, or rather 4D version of Skynet, you must be monitoring all three areas at the same time. Now, if you know it, we are practicing physical distancing on this net in a couple of ways. One is we're not meeting face-to-face, but another way is how we're doing it. Oh, I like this graphic. I hope you're watching the video part of it. What are we doing? We're doing this on radio. What is the wavelength of the band we're transmitting on? It's 2 meters. Convert 2 meters into feet, and it's over 6 feet. So let's stay at least one wavelength apart. Now, we didn't see it, but last night on April the 3rd in the evening, Venus was in the middle of the Pleiades star cluster. Using a telescope or binoculars on that evening, you could have seen Venus occult or cover up some of the stars of the Pleiades. Of course, it was a cloudy night here in North Texas, so I watched it virtually, like a lot of what we're doing nowadays is virtual. I was online with Lowell Observatory in Flagstaff, Arizona. It was kind of cool being able to see it. Not in person. Wish I could have done it in person. So we have already passed the first day of spring, so I wanted to point out the winter circle just one last time. The winter circle is available to us right now. The winter and early spring evening sky is dominated by the most bright stars than any other time of the year. In fact, it is the winter circle of bright stars, beginning with a bright star that's high in the western sky. We'll call this Capella in the constellation of Auriga. Then going clockwise, you find Aldebaran, the bright red bullseye in Taurus. Remember that that was from the last year. Continuing on in the circle, we can find the bright star on the knee of Orion, Rigel. Rigel is mentioned in the Star Trek series. Sirius is the next star in the circle and is the brightest star in the night sky. Next is the star Procyon in Canis Minor. And now on to two stars representing the head of the Gemini twins, Pollux and Castor. And finally back to Capella. At the center of the circle is the supergiant star Betelgeuse. We've talked about that before. And another asterism is the winter triangle, which includes Sirius, Procyon, and Betelgeuse. Talking about Gemini, the twins, that reminds me. Did you hear about the drummer that had two twin daughters? He named them Anna 1, Anna 2. Reminds me of Lawrence Welk and watching it with my grandmother. So the moon was at its new phase on March 24th, and the moon was at its first quarter on April the 1st, just a few days ago. So the current phase is a waxing gibbous. It will be full on April the 7th. The moon will be at its third quarter on April the 14th, and we'll be back to new moon on April the 22nd. So the moon goes through a complete lunar cycle in about a month. The moon moves counterclockwise around the Earth in its orbit. New moon is the beginning of the lunar cycle, which is an alignment or a conjunction with the sun. This is the exact moment. In fact, on March 24th, the moon was new at exactly 4:28 a.m. Central Daylight Time. Most of the time, we just say that the new moon, happens on a certain day, and we don't worry about the exact time. The name new moon is because it's the beginning of the lunar cycle. We can't see a new moon for two reasons. It's very close to the sun in the sky, and the sunlit side of the moon is facing away from the Earth. If the moon covers up the sun, we have an eclipse, a solar eclipse. More about eclipses at another time. And this is Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha, and this is Skynet. When we see a thin crescent moon in the evening sky a couple of days after new moon, we call this a young moon. For several days around new moon, we have this little crescent moon in the sky. It looks like a fingernail or a smile. The moon is lit up on the right-hand side for us here in the northern hemisphere. The moon is getting more illuminated from one night to the next, so the moon is growing. So we use the word waxing for growing. The complete name for the moon seen in the evening sky a few days after new moon is called a waxing crescent. Waxing is what it's doing, which is growing, and crescent is its shape. Roughly every 7 days, we have a major phase of the moon. On April the 1st, at 5:21 a.m. Central Daylight Time, was the moment of the first quarter moon. The name comes from the fact that the moon is 1/4 or 1/4 of the way around in the orbit of the Earth. So there's no dollars involved, just quarters. Okay. In between the first quarter phase and full moon, we have what's known as a gibbous moon. The word gibbous means hump. So the part of the moon facing the Earth is more than halfway lit up, and the moon is still growing or waxing. So the total term for this is called a waxing gibbous moon. And the moon is still lit up on the right-hand side. On April the 7th, in just a few days, at 9:35 p.m. Central Daylight Time, the moon will be full. This is when the complete disk of the moon is facing the Earth, is illuminated, and the moon is on the opposite side of the sky from the sun. The full moon rises when the sun sets, and the full moon sets when the sun rises. If the full moon happens to travel through the Earth's shadow at full moon phase, we call this a lunar eclipse. And again, we'll talk more about eclipses at another Skynet. Now, on several days after full moon, we have another gibbous moon. But this time it's lit up on the left-hand side. It is getting smaller from one night to the next, and so is shrinking. We call that waning. This period of the moon's phase, the complete name, is called waning gibbous. So on April the 14th at 5:56 p.m. Central Daylight Time, the moon will be at its third quarter phase. We call this third quarter because it's 3/4 of the way around in the orbit around the Earth. Sometimes it's called the last quarter because the moon is about ready to complete its last quarter of its orbit around the Earth. Between third quarter and full moon, the moon again is a crescent, but it's shrinking in size, and it's lit up on the left-hand side. So we call this a waning crescent moon. And finally, on April the 22nd at 9:22 p.m. Central Daylight Time, the moon will be back to its new phase, and we call this cycle, well, it's the end of the cycle, and it starts all over again. It takes about 29.5 days for the entire cycle, which is about the length of a month. And that's where we get the word month from. It really should be moon. Now, why am I talking about the moon phases so much on Skynet this week? Well, next week during Skynet, on the eve before Easter, would that be Easter Eve? I plan to talk about how we determine the date of Easter each year, and that depends, in part, on a particular full moon. This is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. Now, on April 15th, no, that's not tax day this year. The IRS has moved that deadline until July the 15th of this year. Anyway, on April the 15th, in the early morning, you can observe the moon and Saturn in conjunction with Mars to the left and Jupiter to the right. going to be a great sight to see. I hope it's finally clear then. On April the 21st, if it is clear, you'll get up early around 6:30 a.m. in the morning, and you might be able to see a thin crescent moon on the east. And if you're lucky, you might find Mercury just to the left of the moon. Mercury is usually difficult to find in the twilight sky. By using the moon as your guide, it makes it much easier to do. And on April the 26th in the evening sky, you can spot the moon and Venus in the horns of Taurus the Bull. Don't forget that when this COVID-19 pandemic is over, the Texas Astronomical Society will resume its public observing sessions and hopefully have face-to-face meetings. Once again, check their website. Thank you, Bill, for talking about that earlier. TexasAstro.org for details. And yes, there is details about buying a telescope there, too. If any of you out there in Wayland have any questions or need a fill on any information I've given you, or just have general astronomy questions, ask now. I don't know everything, but I might know the answer to your question. Come now with your call sign if you have a question.
Zero MBC chain.
Go ahead with your question.
If you had an update on what Betelgeuse is doing, I noticed that some outlets are saying it's brightening again, and if you had any additional information, because some of the text is a few months or a month or so old.
Oh, that's a very good question. Actually, we thought that if it was going to have a possibility of going supernova soon, that it would continue to dim, but it started brightening up at the end of February. And I just looked at it on Tuesday night. It was actually clear enough to go out and look at some things. I looked at Venus, looked at Betelgeuse. I almost pulled up my binoculars to look at a few other things too, but it's brightening, and you can just visually see that it's much brighter than it was just a month ago. So, does that answer your question?
For now, we'll just keep an eye on it, I guess. Thanks a lot. This is W0MBC.
If you have more desire for a lot more information, I would recommend looking at the AAVSO website. That's the American Association of Variable Star Observers. You can pull up information, and in fact, I posted a graph of its brightness, its magnitude chart, back about a month ago on this net, on Skynet, on the video portion, so you might try that. Okay, so let's see, just a reminder, if you are a Brookhaven student listening or watching Skynet tonight, remember to fill out your form and email it back to me within the next 48 hours. So as the moon wanes at the end of March, it'll be waning at the end of April too. So do these words. I pray for the safety and health of all of you during these trying times. Until next time, keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is Chaz, KF5, JHA, Backdoor Net Control. Take it away, Bill.
Very good there, Chaz. This is N5BB at aavso.org. I see that Betelgeuse observed today is now at a magnitude, it says 0.74. I'm not sure exactly what they mean by that designation. That may be relative to, it's where it's changing. If you click on it, you can see all the observations. Okay. Anyway, so much more information at aavso.org. So, do we have any comments about Chaz's things or any other check-ins? We're pretty late in the net. This is N5BB, Skynet. I'm going to executive decision. Brenda, WB5OZL, if you're there, can you go ahead and present your recent astronomical discoveries?
Yes, this is WB5OZL. The title of this article is Hubble Finds Best Evidence for Elusive Mid-Sized Black Hole. Astronomers have found the best evidence for the perpetrator of a cosmic homicide, a black hole of an elusive class known as intermediate mass, which betrayed its existence by tearing apart a wayward star that passed too close. Weighing in at about 50,000 times the mass of our Sun, the black hole is smaller than the supermassive black holes at millions or billions of star masses that lie at the cores of large galaxies, but larger than stellar mass black holes formed by the collapse of a massive star. These so-called intermediate mass black holes, IMBHs, are a long-sought missing link in black hole evolution. Though there have been a few other IMBH candidates, researchers consider these new observations the strongest evidence yet for mid-sized black holes in the universe. It took the combined power of two X-ray observatories and the keen vision of NASA's Hubble Space Telescope to nail down the cosmic beast. Intermediate mass black holes are very elusive objects, and so it is critical to carefully consider and rule out alternative explanations for each candidate. That's what Hubble has allowed us to do for our candidate, says Da-Xing Lin of the University of New Hampshire, principal investigator of the study. The results are published on March 31st, 2020 in the Astrophysical Journal Letters. The story of the discovery reads like a Sherlock Holmes story involving the meticulous step-by-step case building necessary to catch the culprit. Lin and his team used Hubble to follow up on leads from NASA's Chandra X-ray Observatory and ESA's X-ray multi-mirror mission. In 2006, these satellites detected a powerful flare of X-rays, but they could not determine whether it originated from inside or outside of our galaxy. Researchers attributed it to a star being torn apart after coming too close to a gravitationally powerful compact object like a black hole. Surprisingly, the X-ray source, named a bunch of numbers, was not located in a galaxy's center where massive black holes would normally reside. This raised hopes that an IMBH was the culprit, but first another possible source of the X-ray flare had to be ruled out, a neutron star in our own Milky Way galaxy, cooling off after being heated to a very high temperature. Neutron stars are the crushed remnants of an exploded star. Hubble was pointed at the X-ray source to resolve its precise location. Deep, high-resolution imaging provides strong evidence that the X-rays emanated not from an isolated source in our galaxy, but instead in a distant, dense star cluster on the outskirts of another galaxy, just the type of place astronomers expected to find an IMBH. Previous Hubble research has shown that the mass of a black hole in the center of a galaxy is proportional to that host galaxy's central bulge. In other words, the more massive the galaxy, the more massive its black hole. Therefore, the star cluster is home to, it's about 15 numbers, maybe the stripped down core of a lower mass dwarf galaxy that has been gravitationally and tidally disrupted by its close interactions with its current larger galaxy host. This article goes on, so I think I'll cut it off there. And this is from ScienceDaily.com. So we're running kind of late, so I'm going to turn it back to the net. WB5OZL.
Thank you very much, Brenda. Tom, K5ICX, we're out of time, but can you give us just
I'm completely operational.
quick information?
All my circuits are functioning.
Are any space launches coming up here in the near future, or is the COVID-19 problem, has it paused all these launches? Go ahead.
All right, Bill, this is KE5ICX. I'll go really quick on this. I won't give any of the announcements beyond. There's been a lot of to be determined going forward. The only one for sure we have is April 9th. That's a Soyuz launch to the ISS out of Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. There'll be a Soviet rocket launched on a Soyuz MS-16 spacecraft to the International Space Station with the next crew members for the expedition crew. That crew capsule will remain at the station for 6 months, providing an escape pod for the residents. The rocket will fly on a Soyuz 2.1 Alpha configuration that was delayed from March 20th. There are tons of other ones listed here, but all of them are on to be determined, so I think the COVID virus is actually causing a lot of trouble with that. You can go to spacecoastlaunches.com or you can go to spaceflightnow.com. Both of them have information on launches, both in Florida and worldwide. Back to you, KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. Mike, KG5B, I apologize. We're having to skip your section tonight because there's just not enough time. There's no way that we could give it to you and you would have enough time to do anything of interest. So come back next week and we'll do it then. Okay, do we have any last-minute questions, comments, or check-ins for Skynet? This is N5BB. Last call.
This is Whiskey Bravo number 4, Mike Foxtrot, India, WB4MFI, Ted, Dallas, low power.
WB4MF, I recognize you, Ted. I'm also going to recognize, Corky was there for a moment, but he disappeared. So I think we're going to close the net now. Let me look at what I'm supposed to be saying. Hold one, I'll be right back. This is N5BB. Hang on. Wow, we had 35 check-ins. I think that was excellent. 35 hams participating on the net. Thank you all for those of you who checked in this evening on Echolink or on RF. We hope you'll join us next week here and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. for Skynet to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. If you'd like to be in net control on a Dallas area radio club net, please contact the net control. Until next Saturday night, this is N5BB closing a net at 10:33 p.m. Good evening. Stay tuned for Afterglow. Instructions will be arriving shortly on this frequency. This is N5BB. Good evening.
All right, we'll be back for the Afterglow Movie Net here in 5 minutes. 5 minutes, we'll be back, and we'll be discussing the web series, the web science fiction series called Cosmos with a K. We'll see you then, 5 minutes. Come back then. KE5ICX. KG5P, KE5ICX.
Well, it's that time again. Welcome, one and all, to this completely topsy-turvy movie discussion of a completely topsy-turvy not-movie. I, Michael, WT9V, will be your somewhat, mostly unwilling host for the night. This one really should have been Brenda's because she usually gets the terrible movies, and, well, even though this isn't a movie, it's terrible. I thought about reading all of this backwards, but I didn't want to make anybody's head explode. Turns out that this wasn't actually a movie. It was a web series that just got all smooshed together in one glob on YouTube. To me, it didn't make much, any sense at all. Perhaps, if it hadn't been so bad, they'd have made more episodes and things would have started to make sense. I'm waving my hand around in some kind of nebulous form. You can't see that, but I'm telling you. But they didn't. And it didn't. Normally, this is where I ramble on about things so that everybody can get back to their chairs and get in front of the radios and all that kind of stuff. But I think I haven't quite recovered from last night's Confusion Fest. At least that's what I'm calling it. I've heard reports that Tom's mind escaped during the watching of this and may or may not have been found. One theory was that one of his dogs was using it for a chew toy, so there's no telling what kind of commentary we're going to get from that corner tonight. Though I can tell you that a preview of my commentary... Anyway, I guess I've rambled long enough. Everybody's had time to get back from their nose powdering and such, so here we go. As usual, tonight we're going to be discussing a movie, more on that later, usually discussing in theory the plot, characterization, and special effects. That is, assuming we can even reasonably stay close to the topic and not stray into other movies, TV shows, vacations, or how stir crazy you are being shut up all of this time. Mr. Tom lets us know what movie to watch ahead of time so that we'll have time to make notes and prepare snappy commentary for Saturday night. Good luck with that. If you're not on the notification list, grab your pen and paper, remember those, or your handy computer, yes, even the one that most of us have in our pockets these days, and go to Afterglow Movie, 2 words, on Facebook, and sign up, or send an email to the glorious Mr. Tom at ke5icx@yahoo.com, and he'll put you on the list. The list, I say, the list. You don't even have to bribe him, but it never hurts, though these days you should probably just leave stuff on the porch, ring the bell, and run away. So says me, WT9V. So, here's what we've got on tap for tonight. I went on the internet and I found this. The sci-fi mystery Kronos is the latest project by celebrated independent film director Simon Horrocks, which sounds a lot like horrible. And it was. Celebrated as what? I don't know. The 5-part web series tells the story of Philip Hoyt, H-U-I-T, whatever, a geneticist coping with his wife Amy's sudden illness that has left her comatose. With his health insurance coverage running out, isn't he in England? Yeah. And his in-laws applying constant pressure for him to withdraw Amy's life support, Philip faces an agonizing emotional quandary. Then he meets the mysterious Lewis. Lewis possesses cutting-edge technology he claims will allow Philip to enter Amy's mind in order to restore her health. Right. However, it is revealed that Amy fell ill under very suspicious circumstances, and there are forces invested in her not recovering at all. Will Philip be able to unravel the conspiracy surrounding his wife's illness in order to save his family? Will we care? Fueled by a successful Kickstarter campaign, Cosmos writer and director Steve What's-His-Face has created an intensely compelling sci-fi mystery rooted in powerful human drama. Know who was paid to say that, but I don't get it. Doesn't make any sense to me. Interestingly enough, when I told Tom earlier that I had something that would hopefully get a chuckle or laugh out of him tonight, he said, "Oh good, does it involve using electricity irresponsibly?" And well, I consider watching this show to have been an irresponsible use of electricity, much less the actual production of it. Anyways, please come now with your call sign, name, location, and whether you'll admit to having watched this incredibly fine YouTube video. This is WT9V, and I'm all ears.
Alpha Golf 5, Papa Mike, Rich in Rockwall. I did not watch this movie. Thank you for that review. I feel that I'm vindicated in not having done that. I did, however, watch last week's movie. While I did not participate in the net, I actually liked last week's movie. It was a bit nostalgic for me. But in any case, I thought I'd break the ice since there was a moment of silence, AG 5 p.m.
I'll just pop back in here briefly and say, I'm jealous that you didn't watch this, because I wish I hadn't watched it. I'm probably telegraphing what I think about it now, but all right, anybody else out there that's going to hop on the net, please come now.
5 Alpha November Echo in Richardson, and I think I saw the movie, but I couldn't tell you what it was.
This is Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima. Name is Brenda. Well, I did see the movie to start with, but then I decided I wanted to unsee it, so I got my time machine and I went back to before the time that I saw it and didn't see it. So, but I'll discuss it anyway. WB50ZL.
Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie, X-Ray, Tom in Louisville. I think I saw the movie, I'm not sure. And that's not how time travel works. We all know that. KE5ICX.
Thank you for correcting her. It saves me the trouble. WT9V. Anybody else out there?
November 5, Bravo, Bravo, Bill and Irving. I did not see the movie. Don't call on me. I might listen. I might not. Maybe it's good I didn't see it or listen to it. And I am traveling forward in time. I am going with the flow. In fact, BB.
Well, I'll come back to RF. Anybody on Echo Link that's brave enough to admit to, or whether you admit to it or not, that wants to be part of this fiasco?
Kilo Gulf 5, Papa Mike, November, James, Oklahoma. I did sit through the movie. Did watch it. KG5 PM in.
I was kind of waiting for Jay out there in Weatherford, or near Weatherford. And I see that W5 EVB is saying he will defer to others to comment. Wuss. Okay, anybody else? Going once, going twice. I'll wait for 1 more minute, or probably, I don't know, another 10 or 15 seconds. Well, alrighty then, I guess we might as well get started. AG5 PM, Rich and Rockwall, you didn't see it. Do you have any comments, or do you want to wait for the lightning round to make comments about other people's comments?
Well, based on the remarks of the group here, I feel somewhat vindicated in neglecting my duty to watch the show. I was initially feeling a bit guilty, having not had the time, but showing up here anyway. And now I feel somewhat relieved and almost, I don't know, elated. So I don't know what to say, except that I have no other comment on this since I haven't seen it, but I'm glad I didn't. AG5 PM.
Well, like I said, I'm jealous that you didn't see it, because I wish I hadn't seen it either, strangely enough. Kane, K5 Annie, you sound about as sure as the rest of us that you saw something what did you see and what did you think about it? From WT9V.
I thought it was really strange how they made a big deal about this guy being a geneticist and a scientist and whatnot, and yet it never really came into play in the slightest. It was really an inconsequential fact. Other than that, he's a man of science, I guess, and just wants to understand what happened to his wife. I was really kind of frustrated that there was truly no closure of this in the slightest. Plot-wise, it just seemed like, it was like, oh, she's in a coma, and it's like, oh, well, that's how it ends, and she's in a coma. It's like, I don't know. And I'm still not entirely sure if everything happened in order, like chronological order, or if there are jumps in time. It really, the whole entire plot just didn't really seem... It didn't seem straightforward, and yet it was straightforward, right? Because there's, it's like, oh, there's a guy with his wife who has a coma, and they're trying to get to the bottom of it, or he's trying to get to the bottom of it, and that there's some weird things at play with the family, specifically the stepmom. But, yeah, there's truly no closure, and I really don't know what I ended up watching. This is K580.
I don't know what I watched either. This was a weird one. I mean, and I think to address your point about closure, I think that this was supposed to be a new series, and not just 5 episodes or 5 or 6, whatever it was. I guess I could go over here to this other page where I have all the episodes on YouTube. 5 episodes that were all crammed together in the one thing that we watched last night. I'm thinking, I have to think that, they were like, oh, we'll do this, and then people will love it so much that they will throw money at us and we will make more. Only, nope. KG5 PMN, James in Oklahoma. Welcome from up there to down here and things like that. What do you have to say about this from WT9V?
Kilo Golf 5, Papa Mike November, James, now located in Oklahoma and for Fort Worth. I don't know much about what to say about this movie. I kind of feel like it's a 12-chapter book. I started on chapter 2 and on chapter 11. Didn't feel like it was a beginning or an ending at all for it. And there's a couple of things that kind of bothered me in the movie when they were kissing and they got splattered with the blood, and nobody ever reacted in any fashion. They just kind of went back to what they were doing and back to business, looking at that one guy, and never could understand the part of the lady getting up and walking and going up the stairs and doing whatever she did. If that's the same one that had the ventilator on, that didn't make any sense to me either. As far as the plot goes, the only thing was the plot was Wade was sick and in a coma, and then people were arguing and had so many close-up shots that really couldn't tell what was going on in the background. Back to the net, KG5 PMN.
Well, now I don't have anything to say because that's kind of what I was going to say. Pretty much, it didn't make any sense to me either. That's okay. Normally, I would turn to Tom in situations like this and say, Tom, explain it to us. But he's told me that it didn't make any sense to him either. So I'll give him a few seconds to get back in his chair and say, Tom, it's your turn. Tom, there's Tom. Tom, it's your turn from WT9V. Good luck.
You know, you pick a film. I deliberately do not watch it because I want to be surprised. And we do as a group. We watch, several of us watch the film on Friday evenings at 8 o'clock in our separate homes doing the distance thing. And we've been doing that for years. Didn't even realize that was a thing until this year, and until recently. But it's true, it's true. The problem with this film, I think, is that it moves very, very slow. And you kind of lose interest. The character, Philip, sympathetic. The wife is interesting, I suppose, when she kind of, when they go about and reach into her mind and try and get together. It's like, you know what, I know what it is. I just realized. Hold on. This is what would happen if you were trying to connect Bluetooth to your wife. That's what it is. I knew it was something. It finally came to me. And instead of it being blue, it's green. And when you stick this thing in your head with that little hypodermic needle, and you put one in your head and one in your wife's head, and then you press the button or something, then it goes from red to green, and suddenly you're communicating. The only problem is it's a bad Bluetooth connection, and it's all a bunch of, like, mishmash, and you don't know exactly what's going on. And I think that's what happened here. So, honestly, I really had trouble trying to figure out what exactly they were trying to tell us in all of this, although he did get a new room. I did notice one thing in this thing, and notice that I'm vamping for time because I don't know what else to do here, is that there appears to be a hierarchy. Let me reset. That the more money you have to spend on your wife while she's in a coma, the higher up in the hospital you go. If you're just kind of an individual and you're at the minimum, you end up on the bottom floor, which is the basement. It's painted green, like the old hospitals were. And then, if you do well, then you get to move up. And even you get a room that's in a better place in the hospital or the hotel, or I don't know. It all looked the same after a while. So, yeah, that works. Boy, trying to remember what happened, and then the last scene with the thing coming out from the sky, I didn't get that either. So, I thought Primer was difficult to follow. This one was difficult to follow because, first off, you got to try and pay attention when you're falling asleep, and then at the same time try and make sense of what's going on. The characters were thoughtful, brooding types, but they didn't really let us in on anything that was going on. So I don't know. I think this is going to be a short one this evening because, gosh, I didn't know it was going to be this bad. Back to you, Net Control, KE5ICX. I'm going to get this Bluetooth to work. Back to you.
Tom, you are a genius. You have figured it out. And with that, let's close down the net and I'll go home. Oh, wait, where are you? Our home. All right. Well, we'll see what Brenda has to say since she didn't watch it. She says. I think she's just lying to us. Brenda, I never. WB5OZL. It's your turn. WT9V.
Thank you, Michael. This is WB5OZL. Well, I read an article about the making of this thing. The guy that wrote and directed and produced and everything, it was a labor of love for him. He worked on this for like 5 years. And you know, maybe he just got so tired of it. It's like, you know, any other project, you get tired of it and just give up, maybe. I don't know. But it's what they call a zero-budget film. The hospital was actually in a school. They went around, begged, barred, and stole everything that they could, or getting people to do things for free or for cheap. They did some crowdfunding for this, and he's really kind of proud of the end result, which amazes me. He spent a long, long time editing this from 5 episodes down to 1 movie length show. So it can't be that he just couldn't figure out what was going on. This is all done on purpose. Now, why? I don't know. There are so many questions that you can't really watch this and say, yeah, I understood that. You don't know why there was a baby crying. They never answer that. For some reason, wife's in a coma. Everybody says, yeah, that's a mystery. They never resolve that. They don't resolve why the mother-in-law beat up the father-in-law. And they introduce all these strange characters that come and go in and out of the scenes, and they never explain, like the woman that jumped off the building. They never explain that. There's all this stuff, the acting is good, the characters are watchable, but you're hanging on to this going, okay, they're going to explain it all for the end, and they don't. And you kind of feel cheated because it's like, being left behind or something. It's like, they did something and they didn't tell us, and we bought into it, we invested this time, and then they cheated us out of the answers. I kind of resent that, and I would really love to know what the filmmaker thought that he was up to with this, because he's actually kind of proud of the end result. He'd like to make more movies. All right, that's all I have for now. WB50ZL.
But if you were expecting me to explain all of this, you're out of luck, because it didn't make any more sense to me than it did, apparently, to anybody else, except for Tom, who's figured it out. It's Bluetooth. It doesn't work very well. So I'm going to see if there's any more check-ins at this point. Anybody else out there that would like to take part in this? I skipped Bill because he said not to call on him. Anybody else out there that would like to join us and talk about how bad this film was? What's in that picture frame behind your head, Tom? I'll take that as being no more check-ins. Oh, it's a comment. I see. Okay, that makes more sense now. Well, all right, then we're gonna go back to Rich in Rockwall and see if he has any comments about the comments, because he was smart enough not to watch this. I mean, sometimes they're not great. This one is terrible. This one really was bad, and I don't think all the vamping that Tom and I can do can stretch this thing out to midnight, but we'll see. Rich, Rockwall, any comments about comments, or heck, anything else?
Well, I don't know. Last week I went to bed, and, well, I'm awake today, and all I have to offer is my disingenuous comments that basically ridicule everybody that watched it, AG 5 p.m.
That's okay. I've been ridiculing myself since last night. So don't feel bad about that part. Oh, Kane, K5ANE. WT9V is now tossing it into your lap. Haha, have fun.
You know, for it being such a low-budget movie, and for them constantly trying to find ways to not spend any money on this, yet still produce something in the end, it really looked good. As far as individual scenes and things like that, things were composed well. They seemed to have some idea as far as what was going on. It definitely seemed like people that knew how to make a movie were involved with this and did a good job on all the individual pieces. It just seems like maybe there's a good movie somewhere on the editing floor there that just got cut out and dropped off someplace. Overall, the base premise that it seems like they were trying to go for, I guess, is really kind of a neat idea as far as really trying to understand what consciousness is. I think that's what they're going for. One second, I'm going to reset. It had a lot of these kind of sequences that really made you kind of question, like, is the main character really sane? Is he, is maybe he the one that's in a coma? And it kind of also seemed like, the wife was awake in some parts, and when she was, like, walking around, the hospital and all that, it really kind of made you almost wonder, are they actually connecting? But, yeah, overall, it seems like this could have been something neat and cool, but it just was not glued together right in the end, and it just got smattered and smeared all over the place. This is K5 Annie.
I actually should have said something about this. This was where we were supposed to talk about characterization, but I don't think there was any, so you're fine. Also, I'm going to twist your arm a little bit here on the air. We really want you to be NCS because you're really good at this kind of stuff. Yeah, really good. KG5, PMN, James in Oklahoma. So I will say characterization, although I won't blame you at all if you don't talk about characterization. I won't even blame you at all if you don't talk about what we watched. But that's entirely up to you. Take it away, James, from WT9V.
KG5BMN. I don't know. Just thinking about it, it kind of gave me a feeling that they compressed a week's worth of time down to an hour and a half. I think it's an hour and a half. Week's worth of time down to an hour and a half, talking about what they were going to do for her. And the doctor was trying to convince them of how to go one way, and I guess the mother-in-law, or whoever that was the mother, was trying to do whatever she was wanting to do with the family. And I don't know, it just seemed like it was just a weeks-long dialogue about how they wanted to treat the patient, and then they were, getting off and throwing other characters in there, and like I believe Brenda said, with no real foundation for anything. Back to the net, KG5PM.
Thank you, James. Thank you. The only way I can make any sense at all of this is if it was supposed to be the foundation for more stuff, and things were going to be explained better later. But, I don't think so. I don't get it. And, no clue. Which brings us back around to Tom. Have you gotten any further with your Bluetooth theory in the intervening 5 minutes? And don't feel that you have to stretch this one out, because I think I think we're past life support on this particular puppy. WT9V to KE5ICX.
Well, Well, thank you, Michael. And there is, W5EBB is making comments that this is similar to the movie Jacob's Ladder. He'll tell you all about it since he is checked in on the, well, he didn't. He is checked in on the net. He doesn't have anything he wants to say. But when we come around to the technical aspects of the film, I've got a few comments there, so I'm going to hold off. So instead of talking about this film that I can't remember, I binge-watched my first series ever, and it's 8 episodes, and it just came out this week, and it was called Tales from the Loop. And it kind of reminded me of this movie, only way better, having to do with various characters, an extended character cast, that live in this town in Ohio. And it's a high-tech thing. The loop is underground, and it is this round thing. It looks like it could be one of those, what do you call them, colliders down below, but instead it's got this anti-gravity thing that's underneath that they don't know anything about, and after 8 episodes, you still don't know anything about them. Let me reset. And the characters are suffer from calamitous fates from these technologies that are strewn across the Ohio countryside or in this town. Apparently it's not run by the government or anything like that, but the characters are intimately involved, particularly the guy who runs the operation and that. This sounds kind of mediocre, but it's not compared to the movie we're reviewing tonight. But it's got a lot of stories having to do with family and placed in extraordinary circumstances. And the characters, while it looks disjointed towards the very end, actually it all comes together as a single plot. And I'm good with that. I don't think there'll be a sequel or a second series with this thing. I think it's done with what they did, and I enjoyed it. So it'll take you, every episode's 52 minutes long, so you'll have 8 episodes, so, I don't know, 6 3/4 hours, something like that. You figure it out. Let's see, that's carry the one, 8 episodes, 10 minutes, 80 minutes, so 4.5 hours, something like that. There you go. I said 5.5 hours. I don't know. Figure out the math. I don't know. 5.5 hours. Okay, that's it for me. As far as the story, again, I agree with what was mentioned earlier. What James said is, and I'll just glob onto that because he can remember more of the movie than I can, is the prognosis of and diagnosis of the patient is more important than anything. And it goes on and on and on, and they do that. And I don't know about the usurp part where the characters go and, you know, characters, the antagonists are trying to stop everything. I don't know, what are they stopping? I'm not quite sure. Okay, that's it for me, I guess, on that. I got a much better movie that everybody will love next week. So don't go away too angry. Next week's movie will be not fast. Back to you, Net Control, KE5ICX.
Well, thank you, and please do remember, those of you coming up, that I am Net Control, so don't send me texts making threats, you know, because I'll just not call on you. But in case anybody wants to just give up and turn off their radio and go to bed at this point, next week's movie is Apollo 13. There, I said it. You don't have to wait any longer. So if I hear nothing but dead air, I'll know that everybody appreciated that. Let's see. WB50ZL. Yeah, for once, you're going to get a good movie next week. So probably Tom or I will be NCS instead. But in the meantime, WB50ZL from WT9V.
WB50ZL, that's really unfair. It's my turn. The characters in this were more interesting than they should have been, and I'm not sure how that happened. The mother-in-law is a reasonably famous actress. She was in Mad Max 2 as Warrior Woman, and in Farscape is that blue chick. So they kind of thought that was a real coup to get her in this movie, and she has a big fan base. She is really a good actress. This movie is I hate to say this, it's like a lot of my dreams. Things don't make sense. They're out of order. They're jumbled. And there's you know, it's not in order, and you know, you wake up going, wow, that was really weird. So I got that sense in this. I think that's what the filmmaker intended, is let's throw in a lot of mystery. Let's have a baby crying and never explain it. And I think he was really taken with that idea of let's create mysteries, not ever just talk about them, and just leave people hanging. But there were some interesting dynamics between the characters. Their relationships, really, that worked out better than it should have, given the lack of a coherent story. All right, that's all I'm going to say for now. WB50ZL.
Alrighty then. We'll see if there's anybody else out there, David, that might want to check in. David, are you interested in checking in, David? Well, I'll take that as a no. Oh well. Yeah, I don't have anything either. So, let's see. Any more thoughts, Rich, at this point, about anything else you've heard, or anything else? Or are you going to watch next week's movie?
Yeah, I'll probably watch next week's movie. Apollo 13 is not bad. I've seen that before. I'll watch it again. I just think it's interesting that we're trying to rationalize this particular movie, and assume that the creators had some depth of thought. My experience in the corporate world is that there are a lot of idiots that get assigned projects, and frankly, they blow a lot of money and produce no value. And I'm going to guess that's what happened here with this movie, based on what I've heard. Of course, I haven't observed it firsthand, so my comments are really superficial and weak, yet I offer them for what they're worth. But Apollo 13, I believe I've seen that before. I think I actually have the disc for that, so I'll eagerly watch that. And if I'm awake next week at this time, which is really the issue, I will watch it and attend. AG 5 p.m.
I think you actually probably hit it spot on. I mean, this is along the lines of Ad Astra. You know, it was somebody's baby. It was somebody's. Oh, I love it. Oh, it means so much to me, and it's total crap. This total crap. As far as I'm concerned, you know, other people may say, well, you know, somebody really loved it, but that doesn't mean it's still not total crap. K5ANE. Thoughts about anything else? Anything you want to, you know, throw out there on the table? Special effects? Anything else? Because, yeah, I think we're wrapping things up here pretty quickly. WT9V.
I guess I'll just quickly mention the characterization part, because I kind of missed that. And yeah, I definitely have to agree with Brenda on the characters. You know, they managed, the acting was so good in a way that, like, I was actually interested in these characters, and I really kind of wanted to know what the story was. And if anything, the excellent character development and, well, what character development there is, the excellent acting that makes you care about the characters, almost makes this movie, like, more dissatisfying, because that you don't find out what is really happening with these characters you kind of like. So that's it for me. K5A&E, back to Net Control.
Alrighty, thank you very much. And I agree. I mean, it was cinematography. The cinematography, there's the word, was nice. I mean, it was well filmed. It was well lit. It was a good production. The story just made no sense to me at all. But that's not to say it wasn't visually appealing, because it was. It was well done. It was well shot. It was all of the things. It looked good, but that's not enough. So, KG5PMN, James in Oklahoma, your thoughts on whatever else at this point?
KG5EMN. Couldn't really see much special effects in this movie. It was so dark, so dark, so dimly lit all the time that doing it and all the headshots all the time, and there just wasn't very much special effects in it at all to me. Back to the net, KG5EMN.
Yeah, you were probably right. I just forgot about those parts. I thought my monitor had gone out or something. I don't know. That's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it. Tom, wrap it up, Tom. Not to say that, Brenda doesn't get a shot after you, probably. But you said you had other things to say. So give it a shot, Tom. Enlighten us on WT90.
Okie dokie. Well, this is what I learned about a film like this, and this is backed up by people's comments. And that is that the film itself, when you don't have a plot, but it looks production-wise really good, you can get away with murder, apparently, because even some of the people that reviewed the film, not all, but many, thought it was a good film, even though they couldn't describe what was going on. You can't find a wiki on this because, well, quite frankly, nobody knows what happened, so, including, I think, the director, who also wrote the thing and probably starred in it somewhere, I don't know. So you have to ask yourself, what actually constitutes a good film? Well, apparently script has nothing to do with it. So you think, okay, so action has something to do with it. Yeah, lots of action things blowing up, lots of explosions will make for a good film. Well, you get good box office with that. Let me reset. But, if you get named Loki and you got a big horns on your head or whatever the hell that was, that doesn't necessarily make for a good film. Or films, I guess. I think that guy was in more than one. And in this case, we didn't get Loki. We got the blue lady from, what was that series? The one with the Muppets? Yeah, that one. Whatever it's called. You keep waiting at the edge of your seat, waiting for something more to happen. So you automatically think, well, I'm just too stupid to understand this film. Or I'm too tired. Or I'm too stupid and too tired. Which is sometimes how I feel when I watch these films on a Friday evening. But now I don't commute anymore, so now I'm more awake and I still don't know what's going on, and I do still fall asleep. So no commuting. That didn't have anything to do with it. That's what I have to say about that. Now, things to consider about the film. I said the production values for basically this film were quite good. Everybody mentioned the actors were acting. The lighting was lighting. But probably the best part of the whole film was, and this is very noticeable because I have to deal with this all the time, and that is sound. Sound is important. And the audio was perfect. The audio was perfect throughout the film. I don't know how they did it, but they did. And that's what drew you in. You're listening to the mellow voices of everyone. You hear the baby crying, and you don't hear the origins of the baby because the baby sound is babyish. It sounds convincing. It makes things seem real, or surreal, or surreptitiously real, and other S-word reals. And I thought that that's where it really, really excelled. And you know what my favorite scene from the entire movie was? My favorite scene in the movie is when he goes and he gets the nicer room at the front desk. The person who gets the room for him, she's great, and you can hear her say things exactly the way they should be heard. And our protagonist, he executes it in a very efficient way. It's all done on the computer exactly the way it should be. And he gets a nice room. It's even got a sitting area in it, well appointed. You can see that. Oh wait, I think I'm describing the Holiday Inn Express ad. Never mind. Back to you, KE5ICX.
Thank you for that. And my favorite part of the whole film, you just reminded me, it was that room divider that swiveled. That was my favorite bit. I thought, well, that's really clever. And how does he run the wires for that? And does it spin all the way around, or is there a stop? Does it only go halfway around, and then you have to turn it around and go the other way, or the other? Yeah. Questions. I have so many questions. I don't think Brenda will answer them, but it's worth a shot. Brenda, explain things to us, Brenda, from WT9B.
This is WB5OZL. Well, I wondered the same thing about that swiveling wall. They're just going to keep turning it, and it's going to bind the wires, and they're going to break, and then it won't work. One thing that this movie had going for it was the dynamics of the relationships. Philip against his in-laws. It drew you in. It was tightly done, and you got it. You understood it. Interesting thing about the sound. Tom posted a link about the making of this, and I went and read that article. This thing was made in like 3 weeks. It was zero budget, just no money at all. And they had an unfortunate choice of the sound man in the beginning, and after a week he left, and things got really, really bad. They lost the first week of sound, and they had to go back and dub it in. And Philip went home at the end, and he sent in some of the dubbed lines from his home with the equipment that he had. Apparently he believed in the project. And so it's interesting that the sound turned out as well as it did. I think the guy that made the movie ended up doing a lot of the sound, the technical parts of the sound. Anyway, I still feel cheated. They didn't explain anything. And I can't make up anything that makes any sense about the end. You could make up stories all day long about what you think happened in the movie, but nothing makes any sense. So that's the shortcoming of this movie. Wouldn't watch it again. Wouldn't recommend it. Oh, not sorry I saw it. It's something to talk about at least. All right, back to net, WV5OZL.
And that's it for tonight's net. Because I'm going to stick a fork in it. Well, I don't even need to stick a fork in this thing. It was dead when we started. Unless there's somebody else out there that wants to, check in and make comments about things. Otherwise, we're done here.
November 5, India, Mike Sierra.
Okay, JJ. So, are you going to tell us that we were all wrong and it was a wonderful cinematic venture from WT9V?
No, well, first off, let me preface this by saying, no, I did not watch this wonderful web experience. I figure fine film, 2 Fs. It's the web thing, so it has to have 2 Ws. That's the best I can do. But, maybe I can help explain, at least in my own mind without seeing it or knowing anything about it, what might have happened here. Let me reset. Originally, they had good actors. They had basically everything except for the script. And this was supposed to be kind of a sci-fi comedy type thing. You had, a man and his wife who is in a coma. She was actually in a hospital bed at that point. But instead of him being a scientist, he was a grammar professor at a local college. So instead of his wife being in a coma, she was in an Oxford comma. So they would have the actors do some of their lines, and just every now and again she would just leap up from the bed and say and then fall back asleep. So she was the Oxford comma in there. And after about the 21st or 22nd time that happened, it just ran out of fun appeal, so they had to redo the script real quickly with him being a scientist and her in a coma instead of a comma, and then you ended up with the script that you had. That's why the sound was good, the film was good, the acting was good, and everything, but the script just wasn't all that good. That's my thoughts on it. I may be wrong. This is N5IMS, back to net.
I'm going to pretend I didn't hear any of that. I'm just going to say thank you all for coming. I'm sorry that we watched this. And next week will be better. For anybody that didn't catch the first part of this net, which was barely an hour ago, if you want to know what new things are coming, go to Afterglow Movie on Facebook and sign up, or send Tom a note at ke5icx@yahoo.com, and he will send you emails. Just one a week. He's pretty, taciturn about these kind of things, but yeah, that's it. I'm not even going to try and stretch this another 25 minutes. Talk amongst yourselves. It's been fun. It's been more fun than last night's movie. Y'all have fun. Y'all have a good week. Stay safe. Blah, blah, blah. All that kind of stuff. Don't touch people. Don't touch your face. Wash your hands. Stuff like that. WT9V 73.
thank you, Michael. You stepped up to the plate. Yep, next week is Apollo 13. Why Apollo 13 next week? Well, it's the 50th anniversary of Apollo 13's launch and mission. It is also the 25th anniversary of when the movie came out. Now, the movie came out in June of 1995. So, let's see, 95, 2005, 2015. Yeah, 25th anniversary. So, that will be the movie. And in one part of the movie, they get the roll patterns right. And then at launch, they get the roll patterns wrong. So sad. Too bad. That's next week. See you then. Bye. KE5ICX.
You know, you have this thing about roll patterns, and you've mentioned it a number of times, and I had to, like, actually go figure out what that was, and, you know, it's another one of those strange things where the name of it doesn't really say anything about what it really is. You know, it's those funny, blocky pattern, you know, the paint. It's the paint job on the rocket, which, for some reason, you're really cranky about. WT9V.
Oh, it causes him a lot of lost sleep. And he'll be happy to tell you a whole lot more about it if you'd like.
Tell me a whole lot more about it, Tom.
Brenda is correct. Roll patterns are important. Now, on most rockets, they stay the same, but on the Apollo series, everything was happening so quickly, things were changed. Like, as an example, the Apollo 4 mission, which was an Apollo Saturn V launch, the first unmanned launch of the Saturn V rocket. There was another one, Apollo 6. But Apollo 4 had a certain paint job on it, and what they found, and this was true also on Apollo 7 with the Saturn 1B, is that when you paint areas that black, what happens is that heats up your LOX tanks. So they ended up taking and painting the rocket more white. To keep temperatures down on the liquid oxygen. Well, the original paint job that was designed and the roll patterns that you talk about, it literally is roll patterns. The rocket, as it takes off, it rolls over a period of time, and you got cameras there, and they're taking pictures of everything. Each quad on the rocket is a little bit different, so that you know just before it explodes, you know which side you're looking at the time of the explosion or the successful mission into orbit and beyond. What happened was they used the roll patterns for the 500F, the facilities rocket. This was the design that they originally had, but it had since been modified because of that cooling thing they needed to do. Did they use that? Did they look at the Apollo 13 rocket and see what the roll patterns were at the time? They used the 500F series, which was like 1964, 63, in that time frame. That's not what launched in April of 1970. Not even close. There, you've heard it from me, KE5ICX.
Doesn't everybody know that a white paint job is better in a hot climate?
Yeah, but if they painted it all white, then they wouldn't know what quad of the rocket they're looking at when they launch, and the rocket blows up. After the Apollo 7 mission, which, by the way, the closed Frontiers of Flight Museum that I volunteer at, they had a black and white first stage rocket, and the post-report that came out, the post-flight report that they would use again for Apollo 8 and beyond, said that the Saturn 1B was getting too warm. The LOX tanks were getting too warm. So the next time they launched the Saturn 1B, which would be way into the future, 1973, For the Skylab missions, that first stage is all white now, which isn't as cool looking, but it was for that reason. The colors were, the black was causing the LOX tanks to be too high in temperature. There you have it, KE5ICX.
And that's why I drive a white car. AG5PM.
Don't they know if they want it to go fast? They're supposed to paint it red, KE5A&E.
If they'd painted it red, they would have gotten pulled over and given a speeding ticket.
And it wouldn't have been as cool.
You also need those Go Fast stripes, N5IMS.
That's what it needed. More racing stripes. Would have gotten to the moon quicker.
And loud exhaust.
And a big wing on the tail.
Well, you know, red worked great for Elon Musk's Tesla Roadster in space, W5 EBB.
I'm surprised nobody's pulled that thing over and given it a speeding ticket.
Or something in a movie with the wrong roll patterns, he starts shaking his cane and yelling at it. This is WB50ZL.
My buddy next door has got a Tesla Model S. He brought me over and we started bragging about how the panels have huge gaps and they don't fit and the interior sucks and what a great car it was. Anyway, AG5PM. Okay, I know that was completely unrelated. Sorry.
Way to clear a room. I thought that was my talent.
Hey, some of us are still here. This N5IMS.
Are you still working on your comma story?
Well, comma, yes. You ought to see when I put commas by my feet. That way I have comma toes, N5IMS.
Making me comatose. 729V.
This is WB50ZL. Our esteemed newsletter editor has a wonderful shirt he wears sometimes. It has 5 commas in a row, followed by a picture of a chameleon.
There's a song, I think, for that.
Yes, Karma Chameleon by Boy George, and he, you know, if you're old enough, you remember it.
I don't mind being your straight person for that.
You know, once again, this part was more interesting than the net was, but that's purely because of the movie, or TV show, or whatever that abomination was.
Well, I was going to talk about something else, but you threatened not to call on me.
Well, now's your turn. Talk about something else.
I am. We all are.
I did multiple times say, whatever you want to talk about during the net.
Can I suggest we do 50s sci-fi?
Send Tom a note, along with where to get it. And, yeah, I mean, he's always begging, pleading, groveling for suggestions for other things to watch so that he doesn't get blamed for all of it.
One of the limiters is we've got to find things we can watch free. There's plenty of good movies out there, but we got to find it free on YouTube or somewhere, or we can't watch it. So often it's some bug-eyed monster from the 50s.
I guess I would offer, what is our time really worth? And would it be better to spend $3 to rent a movie that was actually worthwhile, or to spend the time watching something that's not? I just propose that it might be once in a while worth investing in a quality flick. But what do I know? AG 5 p.m.
Point of order, sir. The last time we, quote, invested, unquote, in a, quote, quality, unquote, film was when we went and had a field day at the IMAX and watched Ad Astra, also known as, what was it, 2 hours of close-ups of Brad Pitt's stubble. I mean, you know, it was so close on that huge screen that you could count individual hairs. And that was a lot more than $3. So just because it costs money doesn't mean it's good. WT9V.
Wow. I feel like I was hit upside the head with the bat on that one. But I don't think invited to that. I might have enjoyed it. But I was thinking something more low budget that we could all afford, like Forbidden Planet, or Return of the Flying Saucers, or something like that.
Well, wasn't Back to the Future something we had to find on our own and, you know, rent or whatever if we didn't have a copy and buy IMS?
You are very correct, and I'd watch Forbidden Planet again and discuss it here. I might even manage to come up with something entertaining to say about it. WT9V.
There are a number of classics that we have done twice, so pitch it out there. Send a note to Tom.
I'm going to send him a list.
I don't think we've done Spaceballs yet in 5 IMS.
You're correct, we have not.
Sounded proud of that.
No. I think it's a good idea. Can we get it for free? Does anybody know?
I think that's the problem with that one. Although I've got it on DVD or Blu-ray, so I could watch it, but I'm not sure others could.
There's a reason why some of these movies are free, and we reviewed one of those tonight. Of course, again, I didn't watch it, so I get them disingenuously commenting on that, but I feel compelled that I'm right after all the other comments about it.
Tom's being strangely quiet.
Movies are available for free or for a nominal cost. I'm writing movie names down and checking. I'm currently checking Spaceballs to see. So be nice to me. Be nice. Be nice. Be kind. Rewind. KE5ICX.
Be nice to Tom, Brenda.
I'm always nice to Tom. I got a certificate.
I mean, be actually, in real life, nice to him, not just in your head.
That was mean.
Tom, you're a prince, and I think it's worthy of looking for free movies. But you get what you pay for on some of these, I think.
But I think most of the people on this net could review and have a large number of well thought out comments without even having watched the film. I don't know, in the last almost decade in 5 IMS.
Well, I think that before we start changing things around and start watching good movies, we need to cram in Zontar, The Thing from Venus from 1966. It was actually filmed in Dallas, Casa Linda, Dallas. It really wasn't that bad. W5EBB.
I'll just throw this out here. Yeah, okay. So, the whole good movie, bad movie, waste of time movie, it's not as cut and dried as it seems. There have been some really awful movies that we watched, and we all had a blast talking about them, because while it was a bad movie, think terrible B movie, it was fun to talk about. And just because it's a bad movie doesn't mean it's not going to be a good net. This one, I think, was bad because it was so confusing. It didn't make any sense. It was a different kind of bad. And that's one of the things that has kept me coming back to this net, is the fact that sometimes it's a movie that I would never have watched, that I really enjoyed. Sometimes it was a bad movie, and we all just had a blast making fun of it and picking it apart and leaving its dead carcass on the ground. It's more rare that there's something like this where nobody wants to watch it. It doesn't make enough sense that anybody even has any good comments about it. Except comment is Bluetooth. I thought that was inspired. But sometimes the bad movies are a lot of fun. So, don't. They're bad movies, we can't talk about them, or it's not worth our time, because sometimes the bad ones are a lot of fun.
Well, in support of that comment and the prior one, Zontar is a perfect example of a bad movie that's great. I love that movie. It sucks, but I love that movie. AG5PM.
And one thing we have found, kind of within reason, the worse the movie, the longer and often better the net.
Then I also second Zontar as a great example of a perfect bad movie for the net.
I have written it down, Zontar, The Thing from Dallas, Venus, and it will go into the queue. This is KE5ICX.
I think that one's a free one, too.
I mean, if nothing else, it's for an example. What would you prefer watching? The Mystery Science theater 3,000 people do. A bad movie that they can really rip apart, or have them watching a really good movie where they're just sitting there in awe because it's just so fabulous. N5 IMS.
You're right. When I was a kid, we used to watch The Ghoul and Big Chuck and Houlihan, and they specialized in horrible sci-fi movies, and I loved them.
You know, the one thing about, and I mentioned this before on other nets when we run out of things to talk about, is that bad movies don't start out bad. They start out with good intentions. And the people, the directors, the actors, and everybody, usually the director, has this idea, this fantastic film that they're going to do. And when they do science fiction, they're in a trap. They have to do this film, and they find out they ran out of money. They don't have the ability to make the special effects and do all the things they need to do. So they try and cut corners and scope the budget that they don't have into the film, and it comes out as something really terrible. Star Trek V is a good example of that, and that wasn't even, you know, that was a professionally made film. Same thing happens. KE5ICX.
You just described me as a product manager in a Fortune 10 company, and we didn't make movies. AG5PM.
All right, I see stuff in here. MST3K, The Deadly Mantis. Let's see, we have Masters of the World from 1961. That one actually is available. Visit to a Small Planet. I actually was in the play. It wasn't that good anyway. Colossal Man we did. What else we got? Did we do 27th Day? I thought we did. Did we do 27th Day? I've already forgotten.
Doesn't ring any bells for me.
I'll go check it out and see if it's any good. Phantom from Space? I think we did that one. I'm not sure. I'm looking at YouTube and see. A lot of them we've already done. I mean, how long have we been doing this net? 4 years? 5 years? Something like that.
Well, as somebody who hasn't been here since the dawn of time, I have to say, just because, you old fogies did it way back when, when the movies came out on stone tablets, doesn't mean you can't do it again for us new folks. WT9V.
Here's a classic. It's been redone a couple of times. Catwomen of the Moon from 1953.
Oh, that one's really good.
Have you ever seen Wasp Woman? That's another classic, and it's free.
I think we have. I'm not entirely sure. There's Mars Needs Women. That was filmed in Dallas, I think. There's two or three of them in here. I'm looking down the list that were filmed here.
Yes, Mars Needs Women was filmed here. Some of it at the planetarium at Fair Park. It was so much fun to see that.
I have that one. I bought a disc from Best Buy that had like 50 bad sci-fi movies, and that's definitely one of them.
Okay, here's one we've not seen. It says it's sci-fi. From 1968, They Saved Hitler's Brain. And it shows a holocrafter radio, I think, just below his head. Just saying.
Was that as a delicacy?
I'm not sure, but I would imagine with all those tubes in there, it probably warms it up to a nice toasty temperature.
I guess the net of this is that there are some bad movies that are better than others. My expectation on a modern movie, something more recent, is that it sucks less than something from the 50s. I kind of expect something from the 50s and 60s to be a bit campy, but not sure. I feel like something more recent can pass that muster. I guess that's a bias I hold.
There must be more. I don't know. At any rate, I do see in They Saved Hitler's Brain, there's a DC-6 in it, so it can't be all bad.
Well, I'll mention the 1966 movie Dr. Goldfoot and the Girl Bombs, starring Vincent Price and Fabian in Technicolor. Meet the girls with the thermonuclear navels. This I did actually see a few months ago. It is a good example of a movie that is so bad that it's actually bad. W5EBB.
That description alone makes it worth watching.
Did we ever do Mars Attacks? I remember it being mentioned a few times, but I don't remember if we actually did it or not. N5IMS.
There's a pinball machine after that movie.
Oh, yeah, we did that film. It was quite funny. I watched, actually, I was on the road, so that would mean that was more than 2 years ago. But, yeah, we watched that film. And it was Topps bubblegum cards that actually started the whole thing. That's where the Mars Attack stuff came from. And I'm sure they did a whole bunch of other stuff, too. It was pretty cool. I liked it.
The time is 12:05 a.m.
It's always nice when the soundtrack is what saves the day in 5IMS.
All right, this is what I got for the list of movies that people had talked about. Zontar, The Thing from Venus, 27th Day, Phantom from Space, Wasp Woman, They Saved Hitler's Brain, Dr. Goldfoot with the Gold Bomb, I think that's what it was, and Mars Attacks. Any others?
That's a pretty good list.
Okie dokie, that's what I got. It's now bedtime for everybody. Go to bed, everyone. Lost in Space has A Change of Space, written by Peter Packer. It's on right now. It uses the diving bell from voyage to the bottom of the sea with some bubbles they attached to it. It's really great. And then the big organ thing they used in another episode. It's great. You'll love it. See y'all later. It's KE5ICX. Bye-bye.
Good night, all. AG 5 p.m. clear.